Martin Ohm, 1792 to 1872, is believed to be the first to use the term goldener Schnitt, which is golden section, to describe this ratio in 1835. Edward Lucas, 1842 to 1891, gives the numerical sequence now known as the Fibonacci sequence its present name. Mark Barr, the 20th century, suggests the Greek letter phi, the initial letter of Greek sculpture Phidias's name, as a symbol for the golden ratio. Roger Penrose, B. 1931, discovered a symmetric pattern that uses the golden ratio in the field of aperiodic tilling, which led to new discoveries about quasi-crystals. De Divina Proportion, a 3-volume work by Luca Pacioli, was published in 1509. Pacioli, a Franciscan friar, was known mostly as a mathematician, but he was also trained and keenly interested in art. De Divina Proportion explores the mathematics of the golden ratio, though it is often said that Pacioli advocated the golden ratio's application to yield pleasing, harmonious proportions. Livio points out that the interpretation has been traced to an error in 1799, and that Pacioli actually advocates the Vitruvian system of rational proportions. Pacioli also saw Catholic religious significance in the ratio, which led to his works titled De Divina Proportion. Contains illustrations of regular solids by Leonardo da Vinci, Pacioli's longtime friend and collaborator. The Parthenon's facade, as well as elements of its facade and elsewhere, are said by some to be circumscribed by golden rectangles. Other scholars deny that the Greeks had any aesthetic association with golden ratio. For example, Medhat J. Ghazali says, it was not until Euclid, however, that the golden ratio's mathematical properties were studied. In the Elements, 308 BC, the Greek mathematician merely regarded that the number as an interesting irrational number in connection with the middle and extreme ratios. Its occurrence in regular pentagons and decagons was duly observed, as well as in the dodecahedron, a regular polyhedron whose 12 faces are regular pentagons. It is indeed exemplary that the great Euclid, contrary to generations of mystics who followed, would soberly treat that number for what it is without attaching to it other than its factual properties. And Keith Devlin says, certainly the oft-repeated assertion that the Parthenon in Athens is based on the golden ratio is not supported by actual measurements. In fact, the entire story about the Greeks and golden ratio seems to be without foundation. The one thing we know for sure is that Euclid, in his famous textbook Elements, written around 300 BC, shows how to calculate its value. Near contemporary sources like Vitruvius exclusively discuss proportions that can be expressed in whole numbers, i.e., commensurate as opposed to irrational proportions. A 2004 geometric analysis of earlier research into the Great Mosque of Kairouan reveals a consistent application of the golden ratio throughout the design, according to Basora and Mazos. They found ratios close to the golden ratio in the overall proportion of the plan and in the dimensioning of the prayer space, the court, and the minaret. The authors note, however, that the areas where ratios close to the golden ratio were found are not part of the original construction, and theorize that these elements were added in a reconstruction. The Swiss architect Le Corbusier, famous for his contribution to the modern international style, centered his design philosophy on systems of harmony and proportion. Le Corbusier's faith in the mathematical order of the universe was closely bound to the golden ratio in the Fibonacci series, which he described as rhythms apparent to the eye and clear in their relations with one another. And these rhythms are at the very root of human activity. They resound in man by an organic inevitability, the same fine inevitability which causes the tracing out of the golden section by children, old men, savages, and the learned. Le Corbusier explicitly used the golden ratio in his modular system for the scale of architectural proportions. He saw this system as a continuation of the long tradition of Vitruvius, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, the work of Leon Battista Alberti, and others who used the proportions of the human body to improve the appearance and function of architecture. In addition to the golden ratio, Le Corbusier based the system of human measurements, Fibonacci numbers, and the double unit. He took suggestion of the golden ratio in human proportions to an extreme. He sectioned his model human body's height at the navel with the two sections in the golden ratio, then subdivided those sections into golden ratio at the knees and throat. He used these golden ratio proportions in the modular system. Le Corbusier's 1927 Villa Stein in Garches exemplifies the modular system application. The villa's rectangular ground plan, elevation, and interstructure closely approximate golden rectangles. Another Swiss architect, Mario Botta, based many of his designs on geometric figures. Several private houses he designed in Switzerland are composed of squares and circles, cubes and cylinders. In a house he designed in Origlio, the golden ratio is the proportion between the central section and the side sections of the house. In a recent book, author Jason Elliott speculated that the golden ratio was used by the designers of the Naqsh-e-Jahan Square and the adjacent Fala Mosque. The 16th century philosopher Heinrich Agrippa drew a man over a pentagram inside a circle, implying a relationship to the golden ratio. Leonardo da Vinci illustrations of polyhedra in Divina Proportione on the divine proportion, and his view that some bodily proportions exhibit the golden ratio have led some scholars to speculate that he incorporated the golden ratio in his paintings. But the suggestion that his Mona Lisa, for example, employs golden ratio proportions is not supported by anything in Leonardo's own writings. Similarly, although Vitruvian Man is often shown in connection with the golden ratio, the proportions of the figure do not actually match it, and the text only mentions whole number ratios. Salvador Dali, influenced by the works of Matilda Gaika, explicitly used the golden ratio in his masterpiece, The Sacrament of the Last Supper. The dimensions of the canvas are a golden rectangle, a huge dodecahedron in perspective, so that edges appear in golden ratio to another, is suspended above and behind Jesus and dominates the composition. Mondrian has been said to have used the golden section extensively in his geometrical paintings, though other experts, including critic Yves-Alain Boyce, have disputed this claim. A statistical study in 565 works of art of different great painters performed in 1999 found that these artists had not used the golden ratio in the size of their canvases. The study concluded that the average ratio of the two sides of the paintings studied is 1.34, with averages for individual artists ranging from 1.04 Goya to 1.46 Bellini. On the other hand, Pablo Tosto listed over 350 works by well-known artists, including more than 100 which have canvases with golden rectangle and root 5 proportions, and others with proportions like root -2, 3, 4, and 6. According to Jan Schitzchold, there was a time when deviations from the truly beautiful page proportions 2, 3, 1, 3 and the golden section were rare. Many books produced between 1550 and 1770 show these proportions exactly to within half a millimeter.